Grand Solar Flash Update, September 16th, 2024. The 26,000 year Earth cycle will end in October of this year. The King of Atlantis has returned to bring healing and balance back to planet Earth. Today we're going to be talking about the Yuga cycle. You probably have learned it wrong, and I'm going to be showing you what is going to be happening and how October 6th is incredibly important for the future of the human race. So as always, my suggestion to you is to question your reality and then change it. ThunderWizard.com is the website that supports this channel. Go check it out. Books can be found at michaelwilliamdenny.com. Most important thing is to show up for the live guided interdimensional meditation, bring the 5D solar flash event. This happens every Wednesday and Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time for as long as we are still on this planet. Hello and welcome. This is Mahadev the Thunder Wizard. Just been getting some very, very powerful, unbelievable messages from my higher dimensional friends. I will share them with you, and I will do my best to be transparent. I got to be honest with you. The last thing I want to do is tell anybody about any of this. But I've come to realize that I'm not the only person that is awakening to this level, and it's important that you be able to go through these kinds of fantastical awakenings yourself. So I am sharing with you what I'm being told about myself, and I encourage you to seek out light beings in interdimensional meditation and ask them to show you the fantastical, unbelievable things that are true about you. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get into it. Before I do that, what was it that I wanted to ask you? Once again, I want to remind you that even according to science, the most cutting-edge science we have, theoretical physicists have mathematically proven that we live in a simulation, that 3D space-time is literally a three-dimensional virtual reality video game for the soul, and that we cannot know who we truly are as long as we identify with the character that we're playing. Now, we are completely wrapped up in this because this is how this game works, and that the way, I forget the guy's name, I've given you his information before, but the way that this particular scientist refers to it, 3D space-time is the headset. It's the virtual reality headset. And so what science is doing is it's the headset trying to figure out the headset. And so as long as you stay within the confines of the headset in 3D space-time, you will keep bumping into this self-referential, circular thinking. You won't be able to get out of it. You won't be able to figure anything out. This is why science can't figure out what is death. Is there anything after death? What is the soul? Where is consciousness? They can't figure this out because we're going off of we're inside of a computer program trying to figure out what's outside the computer program. You can't do that. You have to leave the computer program to figure out what is going on. Now, what I'm finding out and what other people are finding out who are doing these live guided interdimensional meditations, is that when you leave the headset and you start expanding into who you truly are, it isn't just that, like, again, the whole Anunnaki nonsense that you hear, which is a psyop, because that's a two-dimensional. That's the way the brain works inside of the headset. That the only beings that could have come here to Earth and created the pyramids and done all the amazing things that have happened here, well, they have to be three-dimensional, highly advanced aliens from another planet. And of course, because you've never been out of the third dimension, you imagine a higher civilization just to be, just a higher version of this one. And because you live in a 3D world where it's two-dimensional in terms of thinking and emotions, people are either happy or sad. They either want to kill you or they want to F you. We can only imagine higher technological aliens coming who are going to take control of us and use us as slaves and all that kind of stuff. And that's as far as your brain can go within the third dimension. And I've made a video about it. Watch it so you know what the truth about what the Anunnaki legend is. And I don't have time to get into it today. Hopefully I'll get into things today. We are going to be talking about this really important stuff. So make sure that you stay, because I do have my list of things to talk about to get me through this, but I have to set this up so you know how to think about this. As I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm getting, probably because we're getting hit with a solar storm as we speak, but I'm getting hit with all kinds of crazy, intense energies, and the things that I'm being told. In fact, just before I came on here to do this, I got told something that, again, very, I could easily just flip my lid over this, but I'm going to do what I've taught myself to do, which is to accept everything at face value and not become attached to it and not try and figure it out. Because it's impossible to figure it out here. So what I want to encourage you to do is to allow yourself to expand into the unbelievable. I've told you that the first thing that happened to me when I reached out to higher dimensional extraterrestrials doing CE5 two and a half years ago was that being that looked very similar to that, at least in my astral mind. This being showed up and started initiating me into his spirituality, which I came to find out is my spirituality. And he told me that I was the king of Earth. That later turned into, you're not only the king of Earth now, but you were the first king of Earth. I'm like, okay. And that you have a karmic duty to balance the Earth, because the first time around you set up the infrastructure for the elites. And the elites that are here on the planet now have taken the things that you gave them and have warped them and misunderstood them, and they've gotten corrupted, over the centuries, and they're horrific. And apparently I'm the one that got that ball rolling. And that's not an easy thing to say. In fact, the first thing that's being said was, we have something to tell you, and it's not going to be easy for you to hear it. The only thing I heard was King of Earth, and that was as far as my brain snapped after that. Everything else they said just, it got in there. But the hardest part isn't being King of Earth. The hardest part is the idea that I created the infrastructure for the beings that are, they're not beings, they're humans. The humans that are, the WEF, et cetera, et cetera. And that explains to me, that context explains to me why I'm able in my astral body to go flying out into space and breathe blue flames into the center of the galaxy and send it straight to the sun to be released on Earth. That is how I'm able to believe that I'm able to do that, because that makes sense. But bear in mind that you have to expand so far beyond your 3D understanding of yourself. You have to allow yourself to expand yourself to the realm of deities, gods, Zeus, Thor, Odin, Lakshmi, Kali, pick your deity. This is who you are. And the more that you can expand into that understanding, then you'll understand, as I'm understanding, that that's just the beginning. There are whole hierarchies of deities that go far beyond that, and that is reflected in the mythology. I've talked to you about the deity Tiamat, who came to me and is working with me and has, not according to her, she wanted me as her consort, and when I said yes, she completely merged with me energetically, and that kind of fantastical stuff. But when you understand that there are, in mythology, there are the Titans, and then the children of the Titans. There are those Titans. And then there's another level of gods, which are the children, the grandchildren of the most powerful deities, like Tiamat. And then the great-grandchildren of the real creators are the gods that we worship. Thor, Zeus, Odin, etc., etc. So, now I'm struggling with that level of understanding. And so I want you to have that. I don't need to hold on to this myself. It's very difficult to be by myself and all this stuff. I want you to have it. So that is the underlying context of what we're about to talk about, which is 26,000-year Earth cycle will end this year on October 6th. And the king of Atlantis has returned. So let's take a look at what this means. So you've heard of the Yugas, right? Everybody has heard of Kali Yuga. Well, I'm here to tell you that the vast majority of everybody, including Hindus, including Hindu priests, are completely mistaken about what the Yugas are. If you ask the average person, the average Hindu, they'll tell you that the Yugas last for millions upon millions of years. I'm not against that possibility. But what I'm here to tell you is that I subscribe to the understanding of the Yugas as taught by Sri Yukteswar. So Sri Yukteswar is one of the teachers of Kriya Yoga. And in the late 1800s, he received an understanding or a teaching about the Yugas, which you're seeing here. And he said that the Yugas don't last millions upon millions of years, that they last for 24 to 26,000 years. I'm going to go with 26,000 years, and you'll understand why in a moment. So what's happening now is that archaeology is finally catching up to this, what the ancients have been saying for a very long time, which is that we go through these 26,000 year cycles. Okay, so I want you to look at this here. So if you look up at the top, you'll see Satya Yuga split in half, and then it descends, goes from Satya Yuga to Tretya Yuga to Dvapara Yuga to Kali Yuga, and then you see Kali Yuga there split in half. and then it starts going seemingly backwards and forwards. So if you look at, it's hard to see at this, but where it says present, that's actually that's where we're at. We're on an ascending cycle, and then beneath it is the previous ascending cycle. So ascending cycles start with Dwapara, go to Treta, and then Satya. And then Satya reaches its midpoint halfway through, and then starts descending and starts going backwards. So a lot of people misunderstand the yugas, and they think you go from Dwapara to Treta to Satya, or from Kali Yuga, right? And then they think that once they get to Satya, then you bounce all the way back down to Kali, and you start all over again. You keep ascending, and it's like you go up to the top and then jump off, fall to the bottom, keep climbing up. That's what a lot of people think. People have asked me that. How is it that we're going to have this ascension if we're in the midst of Kali Yuga, etc., etc.? And I keep telling them we're not in Kali Yuga anymore. So if you look at that, it says Kali Yuga ended. You can see AD 1700. Now look back into your history. 1700 is when we really came out of the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages. That's when people started bringing back the awareness of the gods, and that's when there was humanism, and so people were reading classical mythology, and they were remembering all of that, and that's the artistry of that time. 1700s, you saw it was in vogue for rich people to have classical sculptures of the gods in their gardens, even though they were Christians, etc. But that is telling you that people were starting to remember their polytheist roots. So that means that monotheism, which became its most powerful when? AD 500, right? Smack dab in the middle of Kali Yuga. Right, smack dab in the middle of Kali Yuga is when monotheism took over and became in vogue. And in Kali Yuga, during monotheism, was what? Also Pisces, the age of Pisces. And what is the symbol for Christianity? The fish. There's a reason for that. The reason why Christians use the fish as their symbol is because unconsciously the age of Pisces, which was the depth of Kali Yuga. So now that we are entering into the age of Aquarius, we are leaving that behind. So what does that mean? If you look at this, you go back to Satya Yuga. The idea of Satya Yuga is that is when human beings were at their most divine, and that they were able to communicate directly with the gods, that they themselves were divine, that they were godlike, that they had godlike powers. So it makes sense that in Satya Yuga we have the pyramids made, because no matter what anybody says, if people are honest, engineers are honest, they're going to say we don't have the ability. We don't have the ability to build the pyramids. The pyramids that are there now, we don't have the ability to do that, even with all of our technology. So they had some powerful technology that we don't have now. And you look back at now, we know that if you look here, Göbekli Tepe, 9,500 to 8,000 BC. This is interesting because I'm old enough to remember before Göbekli Tepe was discovered, that the earliest, according to when I went to high school and college, the earliest civilization which came after the Ice Ages, the first one was the Sumerian civilization. And if you look here, the Sumerians are 2600 BC. Way late in Dwapara Yuga. So does that make sense to you, by the way? Human beings have been on the planet at least 150,000 years, modern humans. Very likely humans have been around perhaps more than that, perhaps 1,000,000 years, depending on which science you're looking at. But even if human beings, modern human beings that have the same brain capacity that we do now, have been on the planet for at least 100,000 years, you're telling me that for 90,000 years, human beings, modern human beings, couldn't figure out how to move beyond sticks and stones. You're telling me that only after the ice ages, they magically, in 2600 BC, they magically figured out how to build cities and aqueducts and have, and write. It took them 90,000 years to figure that out. And that's if you believe the most conservative estimates. 150,000 years, perhaps millions of years. And now there's even scientists that are saying that Neanderthals weren't a different species. They were humans. So what you're looking at are the earliest Europeans. They just happen to be heavier set. And they evolved. Doesn't that make sense? I'm not attached to any of that belief. I'm just trying to tell you that what we've been taught just doesn't make sense. Anyway, I'm getting in the weeds here. So the point I'm trying to make, if you look here at the red line there, so take the red line up at the top, you're going to see the Younger Dryas climate catastrophe. So what I've come to find out, so if you know anything about the Younger Dryas was, there was this really weird event that happened that all of the large mammals like the woolly mammoths and the saber-toothed tigers and all that, they all died. They just died. And there was some huge event. And it was after that you start hearing about these myths of this great flood event, where and there is now clear proof, really, that there was a huge flood event that destroyed the entire Earth. That there was a cataclysm that hit the Earth, and so people have been trying to figure out what caused it. So I'm here to present to you the very likely possibility that it was a comet that struck the Earth. I've got so much stuff, I'm bouncing all over the place. All right, so my higher dimensional friends came to me, I want to say 6 months ago. It was a while ago. And they started talking about, this end of the world ascension, solar flash stuff, and of course, it's all blowing me away and frightening me, and I don't understand half of it, and my mind's rejecting a big chunk of it. But they said, watch out for a comet. Said when you can see a comet in the sky, that's when everything's going to change. So it wasn't until a couple of days ago that I stumbled upon this. I stumbled upon, if you look down, 2024 comet, the Tsuchinshan Atlas comet, which was just recently discovered. It is going to be the biggest comet, the brightest comet, like in our lifetimes. It's going to be apparently going to be very bright, and it's actually just now beginning to be able to be seen, I believe, in the southern hemisphere. I think at dawn or something. If you look, you'll be able to see it. I don't know that. I just know that's what I've heard. It's going to get brighter and brighter and brighter as it gets closer to us. It's eventually going to conjunct with the sun, meaning that we won't see it. It'll be between us and the sun. and then it's going to pass by that. We'll see it for a little while, and then it's going to leave our solar system and say bye-bye. Well, so the ETs came to me and they said, when the comet appears, that's when, I don't remember exactly what they said, but they said, keep your eyes out for a comet. When a comet appears, that's when it's coming. So I've just come to find out that this comet, which is coming to us, the Chant Atlas comet, it's going to conjunct the sun October 6th. The sun will activate, this is now me making an assumption here, the sun will activate the powers of Nibiru. So forget everything you've heard about Nibiru from all of the wannabe Anunnaki, UFO, ancient alien crowd. Again, it's a psyop. Nibiru in the Sumerian mythology means numerous things, but it basically means that it's a demarcation point. So Nibiru is sometimes associated with the planet Jupiter. Sometimes it's associated with other stellar events. It's not a one thing. It's not a one planet that's going to crash into the Earth. That's not what it is. Nibiru is a name, and it's given to, Marduk when he acts as his Jupiterian role of making a demarcation, a shift. Has to do with making a shift. So, people make mistakes. We're in the third dimension. So people make mistakes on the Yugas because, they came up with that in Kali Yuga. They came up with the mistake of how long the Yugas are during Kali Yuga. That's when they made that mistake. So people make mistakes here on planet Earth, but it doesn't mean that their intuition is wrong. So people's intuition about Nibiru and Planet X and all of that and creating a cataclysm and changing the blah, blah, that is an instinct, and people look for things to explain their instincts that they can't explain. So that's why people can conflate, and they conflate their fears and things like that. So I'm here to tell you this is what I think, because I may have told you this already. Again, I'm getting things out of sequence here, but it had to have been a week ago. As I was waking up, that's when I have my most intense dreams, and sometimes my shamanic dreams will hit in that period just before I wake up for the day. And as I was waking up, I woke up to a picture in my mind of a calendar with the date October 6th. Nothing else. And I asked, what does that mean? Nobody had an answer for me. I went looking up October 6th. I saw some other things that didn't seem to make any sense. Until just a couple of days ago when I became aware of this comet that's coming and when it's going to be visible. So it's going to be, it's going to be its brightest on October 12th, after it passes between us and the sun. And then on October 12th, apparently it will be the brightest in the sky in the northern hemisphere. So when I saw that, I went, oh, well, maybe they meant October 12th if they're trying to tell me about this comet. And then I went, no, I'm pretty sure they said October 6th. So I went and looked and wanted to see, what is this comet going to be doing on October 6th. It just so happens October 6th is when it conjuncts the sun. So, and this comet only comes around once every 26,000 years. Every end of a Yuga cycle. Every time we go through a cycle. Now this 26,000 year cycle is also known as the precessional. And people have known this for thousands of years, that from the perspective of the ancients, the sky wobbles, but it's really the earth. As the earth is going around, it also wobbles. And it takes 26,000 years for it to come back around. And during those 26,000 years, it goes through the 12 signs of the zodiac. 12 is an important number. The 12 signs of the zodiac. And that's why we're coming into the age of Aquarius, because that wobble is turning around so that the age of Aquarius is lined up. Before that, it was the age of Pisces, etc., etc., etc. So this 26,000 years is not an arbitrary number. And, of course, these astronomers are throwing this out, and we've deduced that this comet, which we've just discovered, which is going to be the brightest in our lifetime, what's coming to us, it circles around every 26,000 years, which is exactly the length of the precessional. So that by itself is too significant. But again, I had ETs telling me before, and they had even discovered this, or if they had, I hadn't heard about it. ETs telling me, watch for the comet. When the comet shows up, that's when everything's going to happen. And then a couple weeks ago, I get the date, October 6th. I do the research and I find out October 6th is when this comet is going to conjunct the sun, which means what? Let's talk about that. So I wrote all this stuff down so I wouldn't have to get lost in the weeds. All right, so let's back up a little bit. So in 2012, Earth completed the descending Yuga cycle. Right? So the Mayan calendar tells us that December 21st, 2012. December 21st, 2012, the current world comes to an end and enters a new world. We've heard this from all kinds of sources, that the dark forces that use the technology to manipulate timelines to keep them in power, no matter what, after 2012, no matter what they did, it ended up creating this Ascension event. We're seeing that. That individual who's running for political office just got shot at again, and they failed. So they're desperate. They're screwing up. Every time that they do something, it's backfiring on them. Everything that they've done up until now, they've been able to control the political process and manipulate people. I mean, extremely well. And now they're not able to do it. Every time they try and take control and do something, it backfires on them. Backfired on them. Everything's backfiring on them. No matter how hard they try to keep control, it's blowing up in their face. So that's exactly what we heard, going back to the, what is that called? The Looking Glass Project. So we've seen that. So according to that, 2012, they saw everything changing. The Mayans said 2012 is the end of a world, the beginning of a new one. It's now 2024. So what I take from that is that the current Yuga cycle came to an end, December 21st, 2012. We've been in this liminal period where the new cycle is going for a shift to get activated. Now, what happens, I'm going to use this as an example. What happens in astronomy, when a planet is going to go retrograde? First, it's going forward, and then it seems to stop, and then it stands still, and then it goes retrograde. So we've got here, because of what Sri Yukteswar shared with us, we've got the four yugas, which are Kali Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, Satya Yuga. That they go in cycles, and they go in ascending and then descending, ascending and then descending. Unlike what you've been told, where it goes Kali Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, Satya Yuga, and then back to Kali Yuga again. That doesn't make sense. It ascends from Kali Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, Satya Yuga. Then it goes backwards. It goes Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara, Kali, and it descends. So we have this period in between where it shifts from one yuga to another, just like when the seasons shift. Like right now, we're getting ready for fall. I can feel it. I'm in Florida. It's not freaking 95 degrees outside. It's only 80. It's only 80 something degrees and it's raining. It's starting to get cooler. And if you live someplace where you have harsh seasons, what'll happen is it won't like magically one day, go from summer to fall. It's like summer, and then you'll get this crazy, one day snowstorm, and then it'll warm up, and then it does this, it bounces back and forth as it's kind of shifting. So that's what's happening now. We left Kali Yuga in 1700 AD, but we're seeing the worst parts of it. This is like, you're shifting from winter to spring, but in the beginning of spring, the first couple weeks, there's this really radical snowstorm that comes in out of nowhere and freezes everything up. And then, that once that storm leaves, then it's going to start slowly getting warmer again. And then a couple weeks later, it's going to be clearly fully into spring, and you don't have to worry about it snowing again, right? So we're talking about a seasonal shift. So we're seeing right now, we left Kali Yuga in 1700 and we're ascending now. We're ascending in Dwapara Yuga. And as we're ascending in Dwapara Yuga, there's this horrible storm that's happening, but it's not taking hold. Like the snow hits the ground and then it melts immediately. It's not going to build up and get freezing cold again. No, the snow's not going to last. It's spring now. People are waking up. It's Dwapara Yuga. It's not Kali Yuga. The nonsense isn't sticking anymore. People are waking up. Okay, you with me? All right, so in 2012, the Earth completed a descending Yuga cycle. For 12 years, because it's now 2024, the Earth has been stationary as it changes back to an ascending cycle. Remember, like in astrology, a planet is going forward, and then it's going to, before it goes retrograde, it stops, and then it goes retrograde. Or it's going retrograde, stops, and then goes forward. So that's what's happened. We hit the end of Kali Yuga and we sort of stopped. And now we're going to suddenly lurch forward. How do I know that? Because look at the cycle here. If you look at the cycle here, at the exact opposite, 12,500 years ago, you had the Younger Dryas climate event, which brought the flood, which destroyed all of the Satya Yuga. If you look at 16,300 BC was the beginning of Satya Yuga, which would have meant the beginning of the previous ascending cycle into the most spiritual Yuga, because Satya is the deepest spirituality. It got into that, and then what ended up happening, that's when people became godlike. They were semi-divine. They had superpowers and all of this amazing worldwide civilization that had spirituality and technology far beyond anything we've ever seen before. And then that had to start descending again. So after that Satya Yuga ended, it started a descending cycle, and we had this crash. It was a sudden crash that wiped out the entire Earth civilization that was there. All right? I know it's a lot of information. I'm trying to get through all of it here. All right, so 2024 now, 12 years after the Earth completed the descending Yuga cycle, and it starts, now we're getting ready to lurch forward in the ascending cycle. So the comet Tsuchinshan Atlas is the name of it. It is going to come into our our view, and it's going to conjunct the sun October 6th. The sun will activate the powers of Nibiru, which means a shifting, coming to a crossroads and shifting. A comet that only passes the Earth every 26,000 years at the beginning of each Yuga cycle. So that's what's coming. So let's talk about this. Now, if you look up here, you'll see Atlantis sinking 9,600 BC. Now, this is according to, if you take Plato's understanding. So Plato, the Greek philosopher, he went down to Egypt. And when he was down there in Egypt, he was talking with an Egyptian priest, I believe, who they still remember. By the way, there are Egyptian priests to this day that still hold on to the 30,000-year-old traditions of ancient Egypt. Very hard to find them, but they're still there. In any case, he went down, he was talking with I believe it was a priest. And this guy said to him, he said, "You Greeks don't remember what happened. You don't remember the old history." And so he started telling him about Atlantis. And he said that Atlantis fell into the ocean 9,600, that Atlantis fell into the ocean 9,000 years ago. That was way back in in Plato's time. So that comes down to 12,500 years ago, during what? The Younger Dryas. So again, if you look at this again, the direct opposite of where we're at, you can see in green, Chant Atlas Comet, October 6, 2024. You go directly opposite that, 12,500 years, and you see the Younger Dryas climate disaster. That's when that happens. That's when Atlantis sinks. And so now let's talk about Atlantis for a moment. Now, I'm going to be transparent with you guys. You know that I think that I'm lucid and aware. I understand. I don't think I'm in a psychotic episode. I don't think I'm deluded. I only know what my light being friends are telling me, and I'm trying to expand into understanding it. I'm not attached to any of this. So here's the messages that I got today. What I got today was that I was the first king of Earth. And as you've heard, I created the infrastructure that's then been, over the millennia, been warped and abused by the now elites that are running the world. So they're telling me that I, in fact, was the founder of Atlantis. I did some really cool, really interesting research on where Atlantis probably was, and there's actually really, really, really amazing scientific evidence about that. I'm not going to take the time to talk about that, but and I'm very skeptical about it. But the information I saw opened my eyes to that. That makes a lot of sense. I believe that. So these light beings are telling me that I was the emperor of Atlantis, and that this was in Satya Yuga, in the ascending cycle of Satya Yuga, and because it was such a spiritual time, people weren't influenced by their lower vibrational human self, like corruption and greed. People didn't think like that. And we had tremendous power. We had tremendous spiritual and technological power, equal to those that when we see light beings and extraterrestrials flying in spacecrafts, and we had stuff, at that level. We were at that level of technology and spirituality. And so I didn't apparently think twice of it. But the other thing is that the expansion that I'm experiencing, where these beings are telling me, you're a deity, you're a god, you create universes, and they're saying you in your divine state wanted to come to Earth. So when souls in Satya Yuga came to Earth, they didn't come to Earth like we do now, where we show up in this lower third dimensional state where we forget who we are and we don't have any powers and we don't know anything and we're just bumbling, idiots. When souls came to Earth in Satya Yuga, they remembered who they were and they brought with them their higher dimensional powers. Now this explains why in the mythologies you have Zeus, marrying mortal women and having demigod children with them. This is where things were. This is how things were done. It was reality. That was the reality back then. That we lived in a higher frequency. We lived in a 5D frequency. And that there were different levels, that deities could come down and build a house and physically live there and be these, all that stuff that you hear in the mythologies. It's not just mythological. That's kind of the way things were. So according to them, that's what I was. I was this, demigod or this deity that became, whatever. And so that wasn't a big deal back then. It's just the way things were. And things were cool because it was Satya Yuga. So, we were all having a good time. And if you read about Atlantis from Plato's perspective, they were actually very righteous people. Now, as I'm doing this, I don't know how long, this is a year ago probably, I'm doing the interdimensional meditations and I'm getting my brains just expanded beyond. I think I'm completely losing my mind. The energy is so powerful and intense, and the things that I'm being shown are just unbelievable. So I go to, and this is when I meet with, you heard about my experience meeting Tarhunt, who says he's my father. And Tarhunt is one half of this mother-father deity, and the mother deity was a sun deity. And I went back and I researched Tarhunt, and Tarhunt was in fact in the Hittite religion, was in fact married to a sun deity. And I started calling her in meditation by the, I don't remember what name it was now, by the Hittite name for the wife of Tarhunt. And I was meeting with her, on a daily basis. I would go and meet with my mother, who said, "We are the gods that the gods worship. And you are our son, and you are a deity, and you created this world and that world, and we've sent you to Earth, and you're the king of Earth," and all that crazy stuff that I'm now revealing to you that I believe I was told. So at one point she says, I called her by whatever name I thought her name was, and she very kindly corrected me, and she said, Ilah. In other words, her name was Ilah. And she repeated it, Ilah, and sort of said, go look it up. So I went looking for the goddess Ilah. That was a specific pronunciation, not Ilah, but Ilah. And sure enough, Ilah is the mother of the first king of Earth in the Vedic tradition, whose name is Pururuvas. And he comes out of the heavens and, comes down to Earth and is king of Earth. And he has these interaction with these, these nymph beings that aren't from the, there's all this stuff. And he's this righteous king and very pious and blah, blah, blah. I couldn't have possibly known that. I could not have possibly known that. I just got reminded again today. One being came to me and he said, "This is a long time ago, but I know now why he did it, so that I would know that I'm not making this up." This being comes to me and he says, "I'm from Sirius B Red." I didn't know what that meant. What is Sirius B Red? I'd heard of the star Sirius, but I didn't know what Sirius B Red was. And then I found out that there's Sirius A and B. And right now, Sirius B is a white dwarf. And I went, see, I was making it up. There's no such thing as Sirius B Red. And then I read further and found out, but in the past, Sirius B was a red dwarf that has since gone nova. And now, so this being was telling me something I couldn't possibly have known. So now all of this stuff is coming together, continues to come together. So if what I'm hearing is true, and if I'm putting things together correctly, something's going to happen, perhaps on October 6th. What that is, I don't know. The comet, the Atlas comet, is going to go in between Earth and the Sun, which I believe will activate it. And I believe it will be something having to do, it might completely kickstart something. And if we look again at this, Atlantis sunk 9600 BC, like overnight, because there was probably a comet hitting the Earth, 26, or halfway between, 12,500 years ago. And it created a sudden event that completely wiped out the entire civilization, which had become corrupted, because by that time, as you can see, Satya Yuga was descending, and what light beings told me is that we humans started losing our divine essence, and we became afraid and we tried to hang on to our power. And that's what the pyramids were about. The pyramids were about creating a power grid so that we would be protected from this descension into Kali Yuga. We saw it coming, we knew it was coming. And what ended up happening is because we were operating from fear and from greed, we tried to clutch onto power. So we ended up abusing our technology that we had. We started losing our spiritual powers and we started focusing on technology. And if you look even in the Sphinx, not the Sphinx, if you look into the big pyramid in Giza there, the Cheops pyramid, that there was a huge explosion. You can see it still on the walls there. There was this huge explosion inside of it. So our technology started backfiring on us, perhaps because there was a huge flood event that flooded everything, who knows what. But so what we're seeing is that halfway through, as Satya Yuga starts to descend, there's a little bit of space of time when things start to go downhill, and then there's this huge, immediate, massive, transformative, horrific shift. And I was told today that it had to do energetically because of our, we were beginning to become corrupted, and it created an energetic collapse. And like as I'm sitting here now, what I'm realizing is that as Satya Yuga was changing, we tried to hold on to that level of frequency, and we tried to use our technology to keep it, which sort of it prolonged an energetic shift. And so our technology, it couldn't handle it, and it broke, and then bam, everything came smashing down. And of course we got hit with a comet, which was, I believe it was the universe, getting rid of that. Because if we had kept that technology down into Kali Yuga, we would have destroyed everything, destroyed the entire universe. So the universe sent that comet to, destroy our technology so that we couldn't do that. But the good news is that what we're seeing here is the direct opposite of that is right now. Right now. Now, what's interesting is that Atlantis is Greek, and it translates to of Atlas, or it's the possessive of Atlas. Atlas was the first king, and so Atlantis means Atlas's place. Now I find it interesting that the comet that's going to hit is called Atlas. I find that very interesting. So let me go back to my list here. I hope you're still here, and I hope it's very embarrassing to share this, but hey, how entertaining. All right, so 2024 comet Suchan Atlas will conjunct the Earth, okay, blah, blah, blah. Exactly 12,500 years ago, a comet crashed into Earth, creating the Younger Dryas, or didn't create the Younger Dryas, it along with the Younger Dryas, created the flood event. And this was at the start of the descending Yuga cycle. 13,500 years ago, I put a question mark there because I think that somewhere around there, the ruling empire of Earth, Atlantis, was founded by the demigod king Atlas. All right, and then it's interesting to me that the comet Atlas brings his return to heal the Earth. So that's what I was told I was going to do. My job is, and I'm back now, and I have to clean up my mess. And so my job now is what I'm doing when we do these meditations. I'm sending this energy to Earth to shift it, and then apparently I'm going to have some kind of role helping to maintain that and create that space for human beings to start over again, and making their way back to that Satya Yuga space. All right, so the ruling empire of Earth, Atlantis, was founded by demigod King Atlas. And okay, so in previous Satya Yuga, humans abused their spiritual and technological powers, which resulted in an energetic collapse, re-entering humans, or rendering humans unable to stop the cataclysm. So I think what would have happened if me and perhaps all of you, perhaps you were all there with me, me and whoever else was with me, if we hadn't gotten afraid and tried to hang on to our frequency, if we had just gone with it and trusted and allowed ourselves to lose that frequency, it probably would have been a more smooth transition. But because we hung on to it, it had to collapse quickly. And I think the Younger Dryas scenario was a result of that we didn't just flow with things. So the same lesson is true now, because there was a sudden dramatic change, overnight change. It was traumatic and cataclysmic. So I'm saying that it's very likely, since we're looking at the mirror side of that, there's going to be a cataclysmic sudden ascension. Perhaps because of a solar flash event kind of thing. Perhaps something will happen on October 6th. Maybe it's just symbolic. Maybe, 2012 the world was supposed to end and nothing really happened. It did end, but nothing blew up. It was just as far as we knew, it was a date that came and went. Maybe it'll be the same here. Maybe it'll be like it was, because we do know that there was a sudden flood event, cataclysmic flood event, that overnight completely, totally changed the world. So maybe we'll have the same thing happen, and maybe it'll happen this year. We're right on schedule for it. So civilization fell suddenly and unexpectedly during the Younger Dryas descending Yuga cycle. Civilization will ascend suddenly and unexpectedly on the activation of the ascending Yuga cycle, which officially will be October 6th. All right, so that's the latest craziness I got going on right now. And again, as I said, listen, I'm not coming here as a prophet. I'm not coming here as a psychic. I'm just reporting to you what my experiences are. I don't need any of them to be true. I don't need any of this to be real. But I'm not going to deny what I've been seeing and what I've been experiencing. And, so far, what these beings tell me turns out to be true. I haven't told you the stuff they told me today because I don't know that I'm ready to accept it. They told me some more stuff today, which is... In any case, keep your eyes peeled and don't freak out. Just relax and enjoy your life. I trust this shift, whatever it will be, when it will be, however it comes, we'll all be able to do it. It'll be a pleasant experience for those of us expecting it. And, only good is coming. And all we have to do is just relax and expand into it. So we'll keep doing that. Maybe we'll still be here in 10 years talking about it. Maybe we'll be on the new Atlantis, sitting around drinking mead and levitating. I'm open to any of it, all of it. All right. That's it, my friends. Thank you so much. As always, please remember you are the most powerful being that ever existed. And I encourage all of you, if you're having a tough time with this, so am I. And I encourage you to do the interdimensional meditation. You can go and listen to any of the recorded ones I've got on the live tab on the channel. Or if you already know it, do it yourself. Talk to your guides and ask them to show you what is really going on. What is this about? Who am I? Who am I going to be in this new world? Is this really happening? Is this Mahadeva guy out of his mind, or is he telling the truth? Who am I? Go ahead and open yourself up to that and see what happens. The more people who awaken, the faster this thing comes. All right? So that's it. Again, thank you, my friends. I love you all. I appreciate you. And thank you for creating me and creating this world. And remember, the most important thing you can do for all conscious beings is to live your life in such a way that you are the happiest being you can possibly be. Only do those things which bring your soul joy and help others achieve the same. And when you do that, all beings, including the gods themselves, get on their knees and worship you, as do I. Thank you so much. And until next time, please be very good to yourself, and I will see you all very soon.